Good evening to everyone watching us online from all around the world. And thank you for being here, because it's thanks to Sebastien who invited us to Lyon, but also to you who came, that we're all here. Life is silly. When you organize something, people come. But if you don't do it, it doesn't happen. Your whole life is like that. If you do it, it happens. If you don't do it, it doesn't happen. Sometimes we ask ourselves questions when the answer is quite simple. So, let's pick up where we left off yesterday. Paul, if you can send the first slide. I didn't really finish the explanation, that's certain, because we could talk about it for a very long time. But I quickly went over something that is important, which is that you see this principle of recycling. You need to see it a little bit in reverse, like in another world. A bit like in the series Stranger Things, for those who have seen it. It's like there's an inverted world. And when a situation arises in your life, you experience something pleasant or unpleasant, an encounter, something. It is a potential recycling that happens in your life. There is this mass of memory energy that returns to your life and presents itself again to your consciousness. Because the previous proposal had generated waste, something that is not finished. And so it is proposed to you again. It's a proposition. Life offers you something. Learn to see life like that. Nothing is truly set in stone in life. Everything is a proposal, even when you find yourself in a situation that seems like a funnel. It's like, with this we have a little laser here. We can point at something. Life is pointing something out to you to draw your attention to it. And it's actually still a proposal. And it's a recycling in the sense that the way you take this proposal and what you make of it will determine the course of events. Because, at the core, seeds, tomato seeds, cherry seeds are just proposals to life. Most proposals are rejected. Have you seen how many seeds nature produces, how many eggs animals lay, how many little ones? I don't remember. I think I saw something about octopuses. Out of 1,000 octopuses, I think one survives. It's really incredible. There are many proposals. Jesus said, there are many called, few chosen. Life is like that. You have many days, but there are few that are truly significant and important. So, this principle of recycling appears in your life, and with it, something appears at the same time. It's a kind of vitality and creative energy, a sensation. I had pointed it out to you in the previous slides where I told you it's a sensation of existence or a self-awareness. It appears in life like that. It can reinforce something you already believe about yourself or others, or it can be like a really new point of view that arrives and tells you that you're not like that. After all, the other person is not exactly like that. You are surprised. Sometimes you're not surprised, it confirms. Or you feel like it confirms. Sometimes we interpret events based on our own patterns and beliefs. It's hard for us sometimes to see things from another perspective. From this principle of recycling emerges a vitality. But a vitality in every sense of the word. Someone who's going to meet, for example, addiction, drugs. But there are all kinds of addictions. We must not limit it to drugs. Someone will encounter an addiction in their life. It happens. Well, the addiction will create a certain excitement inside them, a certain type of vital energy. But for him, he will experience it as an increase in vitality. It can be a meeting, you meet someone, and from this friendship, this love, this professional relationship, whatever it may be, a new vitality emerges and it enhances something inside you. Well, what will come out of this life proposition and the vitality that you will accept, that you will take into your life, will determine the next waste of the experience. And this is how you weave the events of your life. So, The way you react to situations in your life will determine a lot of things in your future. So I noted possible responsibility because through the proposal that life makes to you, there is a possibility for responsibility. For me, it's open. We took the examples yesterday with the German soldiers in front of the City Hall of Lyon during the Second World War. What is their responsibility? Was being there their karma? Did he create karma that he didn't have? Where does responsibility start? Where does the weaving begin? We must really be cautious, as we discussed yesterday, of this stroboscopic vision that makes us see moments as a succession. It is really necessary to broaden and, with calmness and gentleness, allow the entirety of events to emerge over time. In the vision of reincarnation and karma, you experienced things yesterday, you experience things today, and you will experience things tomorrow. So even if you don't believe in reincarnation or even the existence of the soul, take what I share, just like yesterday, today, tomorrow. Because anyway, you agree with me in saying that we live today in a succession of causes and effects that bring us to today and will have an impact on tomorrow. Our interpersonal relationships, how we feel, what we have or haven't done in our life. You did not wake up this morning from nothing, and you will not go to bed tonight with nothing. You are part of a continuity. So even if the question of the soul survival, reincarnation is foreign to you, that's not what's important, because you need to think about today in your life. Today, so yesterday, today, tomorrow. There's a thread, a continuity, and so a thread of responsibility. And you see, I introduce here this notion of good, because you'll see that for me it's the key to resurrection. Yesterday, you had to make choices. You have to make choices all the time, small choices, medium choices, and big life choices. So what will be your point of reference each time you have to make a choice? It is, what is good? What is good in the situation? What is good for you? What is good for the other? What is good for your work? What is good for us? What is good for the European Union? What is good for France if there are elections? What is good for your child? All the time, all beings have this criterion in mind, even if you believe they are not thinking about the good. They think about their interests. But their interests, for them, are the good. Do you understand? How many doses are we going to sell? How many doses have we sold? Ah, such a country. You have your world map, and the countries that make vaccination mandatory light up like little lights, and you see your bank account increasing, but it's for the good. If you're convinced of the effectiveness, you also think of the good. You say to yourself, the good increases. So even those we think do not have the well-being of others in mind, they are concerned with their own well-being, the well-being of their political and economic career. Constantly, we seek what is good according to our criteria. I place this man who is burdened with all his memory energies, which condition his way of thinking, his perceptions, which bring him a sense of existence, a self-awareness. All of this mixes inside us to allow us to have a criterion of what is good. So, if we talk about karma, for example, what would we want to do with a situation where a choice has to be made, where one must take a stand? We would want to take the best possible posture, have the best, the most just response. What should I do karmically? Should I stay with this woman or this man? Should I leave him, leave her? If I leave her, have I fulfilled my karma, or will I encounter it again in my next life? Those are serious questions, Do not ask them to your lawyer or the family court judge, because then they'll make a report to the psychiatrist, you're done for. As for child custody, it's over. Keep that to yourself. But if you consider reincarnation as a possibility, you can place your current situation in yesterday, today, tomorrow. And so, what is the right act? What is good? The question will arise all the time. Should I cut ties with this person, or should I continue to endure this relationship? In all areas, professional, friendly, everything. What is good? What is right? Well, what I think is that if you make the right decision, there will be a process of finalization, accomplishment, and culmination of this memorial energy. And that's what we have called the resurrection. But the question must always be asked today, in a continuity, but today. That's the theory I subscribe to. I agree that I can't present you with absolute proof. And besides, I don't care at all. I'm not trying to convince anyone, but this is the theory I live by. You know, it's the famous Pascal's wager. You know Pascal, the French philosopher, who said, I make the bet on God because if I die and he exists, I will have bet on the right horse, and if he doesn't exist anyway, I'll never know. No, but it's clever as an approach. It's clever, I think. I mean, what is the worst that can happen? It's that you lived according to a moral code and you didn't do too much harm around you. I think that's not bad. My idea, the one I adhere to and live by, is that the situations in my life offer me a proposition of good, like, do you vote for the single currency, the abolition of borders, the Schengen area, etc., or do you vote against? You understand? There is a proposal for positioning. You must position yourself according to what is good. But my wager is that good is not relative. Good exists in an absolute way. This is what today we call, for example, nature, the harmony of nature, the laws of nature. This is what we call, for example, physics, the laws of physics, what we call science. There is a functioning of the universe that is a permanence. And for me, permanence is the set of things in the universe that are good. Besides, if you want to build a house, it's better to know the permanent laws of gravity so you can respect them, so that your house stands firm. If you want to improvise with the laws of architecture and physics and dynamics and all that, static, your house could completely collapse on the people who will live inside. You'll say, oh darn, but it seemed fine to me. For me, in the same way that there is a good physics, exterior, I will give you a very simple one. The Earth is at a certain distance from the Sun. And this distance does not vary from one day to another. Otherwise, it would be very complicated to live on Earth. Can you imagine? Tomorrow, it's 2000 degrees on Earth, and the day after tomorrow is minus 30,000 degrees. So there's a kind of consistency. Well, I agree that if we look over a very long time, it changes and all that. But anyway, that doesn't concern me. Personally, I won't really be here in 50 years. If there is a change in a billion years, it's not a big deal. In any case, my life is possible because there is permanence and constancy. Just as it exists physically outside of me and guarantees harmony, in the same way, I want to live according to this harmony and constancy within myself. And I bet that there is a good way to live together among us humans. and there is a good way to live with our environment. Today, it's easy to take the environment as an example, because in the 1930s and 40s there was a kind of euphoria. We would have had a kind of feeling of existence by the widespread belief in the West that scientific progress was going to take us to the stars and that there were no limits. To scientific progress, to the mastery of matter, you see that we could do everything, cure everything, that it was only a matter of time, that scientists would find the answer to all our suffering, all our illnesses. And in the 50s, 60s, we thought, but by the year 2000, no one will die anymore. Medicine was progressing at such an incredible pace. Today, we live in a different situation where we realize that we haven't necessarily made the right choices, that we don't necessarily understand everything, that there are many parameters we don't have yet. So we have somewhat put into perspective the omnipotence or the feeling of omnipotence that science brought us. So my bet is that there is a benefit. Eternal. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, it's called the eternal. So we imagine a bearded man on a cloud. That's for preschool babies, if you like. But no, the eternal. You take the Old Testament, translate every time it's written the eternal. Say eternity. Eternity is long. So, when you take even a few decades of perspective, already a lot of things collapse. So, eternity. Well, I think there is an eternal good, and if you do not take this eternal good, you will take a relative good, which seems like a good idea at the moment. But according to what criteria? According to the situation, the circumstances in which you find yourself. And sometimes take a little time to remember that you are an eternal soul. You see, you do this. You say, okay, time out, pause. I pause in my life. I am going to my great aunt's house in Corrèze, in the greenery, in the silence. And I try for several days to tell myself, okay, I am above all an eternal soul. So, my mother-in-law, my retirement points, my resume, what people will think, what the children will say. You understand all the usual parameters by which I make decisions. Takes a back seat. First and foremost, I am an eternal soul and I travel through time. As part of this journey of my eternal presence, is this decision the right one? And what will be the infinite consequences of this decision?